Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. With Across the Spider-Verse just coming out over the weekend, thought it'd be a great time to do a tier ranking video for all the Spider-Man movies, from Tobey Maguire all the way up until this latest movie. So let's just get straight into it here. And so as you can see here on the screen, we've got all the movies ranging from the very first Spider-Man movie from Tobey Maguire, all three of his trilogies, to Andrew Garfield's, Tom Holland's. We even included Venom and Morbius just for the sake of it here. So again, this is just going to be my opinions, my thoughts about the movies and how I'm going to rank them there. Of course, everybody's list is going to be different. I definitely want to hear people's lists in the comment section down below. So for those of you that have seen all these movies or some of the movies, let me know where you would rank them in the comment section down below. And if you do love these tier ranking videos, I've done quite a few of them. I've done all the phases of the MCU here. There's going to be a couple more coming out on the channel here. Keep an eye on that. Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible tier rankings. So that's going to be appearing on the channel. But let's just get started here right here without further ado with the very first one, obviously Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movie. And I'll be completely honest, when this came out I was still a kid. I was a huge Spider-Man fan, but my parents just never took me to go watch this movie, so I was never really introduced to this movie until years later. But watching this movie for the very first time growing up, and my cousins owning the DVD of it, watching it, sleepovers with my cousin's house over and over again, I absolutely loved this movie. Obviously as a kid you're not really into like the plot details, the storytelling, the cinematography, but now as I'm older, I just loved everything about this. Tobey Maguire, you wouldn't think it at the time, but was just a perfect casting choice to play Peter Parker. And just everything about this movie coming along, William Dafoe honestly just nailed it as the villain, nailed it as Green Goblin, nailed it as Norman Osborn too. He just played that villain just so perfectly that I feel like him with Tobey Maguire, the casting choices just played so well off of each other. If you really want to nitpick this movie, maybe the CGI doesn't hold up as well as it does nowadays when it comes to like movies, but that's really just a minor nitpick there. I just think everything about this movie was such a fun introduction, such a great way to kick off Spider-Man and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So for me, when it comes to Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 1, this is going as an A for me here. Now it's not going as the A++ best Spider-Man movie, only because when it comes to the sequel Spider-Man 2, this is for me my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. Really coming close second is Across the Spiderverse, but we'll get into that later on. But Spider-Man 2, the introduction to Dr. Ock, the train sequence, the fight sequences that they had there, the reveal of Spider-Man to MJ, I loved everything about this. And this, for me, is the very first Spider-Man movie I have seen. Because as I mentioned, growing up, I was not able to go to the cinema. I was not able to see Spider-Man, the original one, but I was able to watch Spider-Man 2 for the very first time when it did come out, and that's when I was able to then watch Spider-Man 1 over and over again. Spider-Man 2 I've seen so many times, and just this for me is one of the best Spider-Man movies written here. There might be some little nitpicks, and I know that there's some criticisms when it comes to like Tobey Maguire and how he lost his powers due to like an inner self-crisis kind of thing, which I can get, but for me, it's the writing and the action sequences of the fight choreographed. Like I said, the train sequence in itself, like when the people saw the reveal of Spider-Man and just that interaction that they have with Spider-Man in itself. And again, Alfred Molina playing Dr. Ock. Like the casting with Sam Raimi's movies, with Tobey Maguire, with Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, with Dr. Ock, like everything just played along so well that I just loved everything about this movie. It's one of the most rewatchable movies in my personal opinion of the Spider-Man movies, and just one that you just enjoy so much. So honestly, just in general, a fun, fantastic movie. So yeah, when it comes to Spider-Man 2, this one for me is going as that A++ best Spider-Man movie in my personal opinion here. Now for the next one, Spider-Man 3, there is a lot of behind the scenes issue going on with this. Sam Raimi has stated that he didn't want Venom to be part of this movie. A lot of like drama going on because this movie is a mess. For me, I'll be honest, it's an entertaining, enjoyable mess, but still it's just a mess nonetheless. Like they backtrack in the whole Uncle Ben sequence, which I also actually didn't even mention in the first one. Like the whole Uncle Ben, great power comes great responsibility line just is a chef's kiss. But they backtrack on like who killed Uncle Ben. You've got Sandman as the villain. You've got Harry Osborn wanting to get revenge on Spider-Man, but he gets sidelined for half of the movie, losing his memory. You've got then Venom as like another introduction. So like it's just a lot of like clunkiness when it comes to this movie. So I get why a lot of people dislike this movie and a lot of people don't rate this movie. For me, enjoy it. It is fun. It's like I said, it's a mess, but it's a fun mess that you enjoy. It's like watching a Demolition Derby event. You want to see the cars crashing, and for me, I enjoy this car crash of a movie. It has its plot holes. It has the ridiculousness of Tobey Maguire, Bully Maguire. The memes have come out of this movie is honestly worth it alone. You've got the dance sequences there. Everything about this when it comes to like Tobey Maguire's acting and everything like that. Granted, again, the Venom sequences wasn't that great, but I do like the whole Tobey Maguire becoming Venom and then Eddie Brock becoming Venom, and even like the third act too. Not half bad, but like I said, it is a mess and just a lot of like issues. When you're comparing it to the first two Spider-Man movies especially, this one just doesn't hold up. But like I said, enjoyable. So when it comes to Spider-Man 3, this one is going as a C minus, but a C nonetheless. Now for the next one here is we've got the Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield reboot. So in context, Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 came out in 2007. The Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012. So what, 5-year differences? A lot of people felt like it was too soon to have another Spider-Man movie. I've seen this a couple of times and I just didn't enjoy it as much as like the previous 3 movies. However, rewatching it these last couple of years and rewatching it especially after No Way Home, I have more of appreciation for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Like, he puts his heart and soul in this movie, and granted it's not the best Spider-Man movie. They do these weird things with Andrew Garfield's parents and like some conspiracy theories with like his parents and all that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed Lizard as a villain when it comes to this movie, and Gwenstacy and Andrew Garfield, their chemistry was just out of this world brilliant. Like, I'll be completely honest, I feel like Andrew Garfield and Gwenstacy, their chemistry was a lot better and a lot stronger than Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane Peter Parker relationship and chemistry. I think Andrew Garfield's one was a lot stronger, so that really carried with the film. And honestly, the swinging in this movie is one of the best swinging in live action Spider-Man sequences here. Andrew Garfield had one of the best swinging sequences. So overall, not the worst Spider-Man movie, but equally not the best one. So for me, when it comes to The Amazing Spider-Man, I'm giving this one a C, but this one is much higher than Spider-Man 3, so I'm probably going to give this one a C plus here. Now for the next one, the sequel to The Amazing Spider-Man with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I'm going to be completely honest, this for me is one of the worst Spider-Man movies in my personal opinion. Out of the whole like Spider-Man movies with Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland, if you really like this movie, I'm really happy for you that you like this movie and that you got to enjoy this movie. But for me, when it just comes to like the origin story of Jamie Foxx's Electro, Rhino, I mean, what's to say about Rhino other than this? Just weird choices here. And even like Harry Osborn, like I thought the actor was pretty good in the actual role itself, but it feels like it was all over the place. I just wasn't a huge fan of this. There was some pretty good sequences, especially when Andrew Garfield and Electro had that sequences and that battle in Times Square, I believe it was. So I'm not 100% familiar with like New York, the area and that kind of stuff. So I apologize if I'm wrong. It might have been Times Square, it might have been a different area in New York. But like that sequence is there, and especially with Spider-Man, like making sure nobody touches metal when Electro is going crazy there. I really like that sequence is there. And again, the swinging sequence, once again, just top notch. But like the storyline and the plot just wasn't engaging enough for me, and I just could not sit through this. I've tried rewatching it multiple times. Again, even after watching Spider-Man No Way Home, I've tried rewatching this. I couldn't, honestly. It did have a significant impact when it comes to like the end of the movie. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, by the way. When it comes to Gwen Stacy's death, I just thought was really powerful. And again, Andrew Garfield doesn't get enough credit, despite his movies not being the best Spider-Man movies in a lot of people's opinion. Andrew Garfield's acting and performances was just so incredible and out of this world. He may be one of the best actors to have played Peter Parker because of his just raw emotion, his acting ability, and everything that comes with it when it comes to playing Peter Parker. So he was incredible in that sequence again with Gwen Stacy's death. Just really incredible, but for me that wasn't enough to hold this movie. So when it comes to The Amazing Spider-Man 2, for me this one unfortunately is going to go as an F. For me, one of the worst Spider-Man movies they've done here. And so next up on the list here is we've got the MCU version of Spider-Man with Tom Holland, and this one is Spider-Man Homecoming. I really had a fun time with this. It really got to see a more grounded Peter Parker, him being this friendly neighborhood Spider-Man taking on crimes in his neighborhood. Yeah, you can say that Tony Stark was sort of like help carrying this movie, but you got to see like a raw Peter Parker just honing in on his abilities, trying to take on crime. He is, I believe, in high school right now, so you see his high school problems that he has. You start getting like little hints with MJ and like their relationship not really blossoming, but like starting up kind of thing. And a brilliant sequence with the both. And I love the villain in this movie too, like Michael Keaton playing the Vulture, and the reveal of him being the father of the girl that Tom Holland, Peter Parker, likes. I really like that twist, and I really like that driving scene that they had with two of them in the same car, but him playing a more grounded Vulture, not one that's trying to take over the world, but just angry at the city. I liked what they did with his character, and even that sequence too, when you have the building on top of Tom Holland and he's just fighting that courage and that strength to like take that building off of himself. I really like that. I have a bit of criticisms when it comes to the movie itself, like such as the Shocker. I really hate the way that they underutilized the Shocker, and I hope that he does come back in future movies, maybe as like one of the villains in Spider-Man 4, similar with Scorpio. Have these two as like not like the big bad villain or like the main villain, but like side villains. But I just didn't like how they used the Shocker in this movie. But overall, a really fun, entertaining movie. So when it comes to Spider-Man Homecoming, this one I will have to give it a B here. Now the next one we've got here is Spider-Man Far From Home, the first movie since Avengers Endgame. And while I know a lot of people aren't a fan of this movie, a lot of people don't like the whole plot with Tony Stark leaving his AI glasses to a teenager basically who was also dead for 5 years. I for one do agree with that criticisms. I feel like that sort of plot just doesn't make any sense. Also my frustration with them being in like different countries, like I like Spider-Man in the neighborhood, Spider-Man in New York, but for them to go like across Europe and that kind of stuff, wasn't a huge fan of it here. However, Mysterio really carried this movie, really upped the ante, and the fight choreograph when it comes to Mysterio and like the little illusions that he was playing with Peter Parker, with Spider-Man, I thought was really top notch. But it doesn't hold it enough when it comes to the actual movie, because like I said, a lot of like plot flaws, a lot of issues when it comes to like moving the story forward. I wish they could have done like a lot of different things when it comes to this movie as well. But that third act, and even like the reveal at the end too, having that J. Jonah Jameson at the end too, like the same actor who was in the Tobey Maguire movies, I like that touch. But just overall a lot of flaws, a lot of like plot holes. So when it comes to Spider-Man Far From Home, this one I will probably give it a D, a high D, a D plus, but just overall really flawed. Not the best one in the trilogy for me, but still like a decent fun time with it here. Now for the next one here, I know that there is like some issues again with the plot and like the plot device of Doctor Strange putting a spell on everyone, not discussing it first, just agreeing with like Peter Parker and why he wants to do the spell. I know that, and like you can argue that the first act of this movie isn't as strong as like the next two acts, but you cannot deny just having Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire returning as Spider-Man, having these villains like Sandman, the Lizard, Electro, Dr. Ock, Green Goblin, like the Sinister Five as they called it, returning to this movie. You have that amazing scenes with the three Spider-Mans together, especially with finding out what like the Peter Parkers have been up to, especially when like they're consoling Tom Holland after losing Aunt May in the towards Green Goblin, and like them just talking about the loss, talking about the lines of great power comes great responsibility. It just gives you goosebumps. I remember the build up towards this movie. I remember like the set photos that would get released. I remember like the potato looking trailer that came out before the actual trailer did get released, and just everybody speculating, having to see Andrew Garfield lie constantly about him not being in the movie. It was just, the build up towards the movie was just as fun as watching the movie in itself. I had such a fun time with this movie. Again, first act, maybe not as strong. I had a fun time with it, especially watching Doctor Strange versus Spider-Man and like Tom Holland using his intelligence with the whole geometry sequences here. You've got the introduction to Dr. Ock on that bridge sequence there. Everything about it was just so fun, just so entertaining. And then that third act, of course, with the Statue of Liberty fight sequences here, little nods to previous movies, like for example Andrew Garfield saving Tom Holland's MJ the same motion when she's falling and he couldn't do it for Gwen Stacy. You have Tobeymaguire and Dr. Ock reuniting, having that conversation, just such heartfelt, wholesome moments. So I can rewatch this over and over again. So when it comes to Spider-Man No Way Home, I know a lot of people might not agree with it because of like the flaws and everything like that, but it's just a fun movie. So when it comes to Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm giving this one an A+. A fun, entertaining, just really enjoyable, nostalgic movie for me. So definitely it goes as an A. Now, before we get into the animated movies, I want to go through the like sort of Sony spin-off Spider-Man movies since they're on the list here. Starting off straight away with Morbius. I mean, what's left to say? This one's going as an F for me here. Just the less said the better, I think, with Morbius. An F. Okay, just an F. And then when it comes to the two Venom movies, I feel like I've seen this where a lot of people think the second one is better than the first one. I kind of enjoyed the first one more, like the introduction to Venom. It's just a lot of flaws with this movie, but Tom Hardy and Venom, like their dynamic with one another, I thought was a lot of fun. I like Eddie Brock discovering Venom, and yeah, like the third act, especially when it comes to like the lighting, when it comes to the third act, the symbiotes fighting one another just didn't look that great on screen, but it's still an entertaining movie. I remember watching it and enjoying it and having a fun time when it did come out in 2018. So just to cut this short and sweet, so for me, when it comes to Venom, I'm probably going to give this one a C. It's in between Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3. I'm giving this one a C, not a C plus or a C minus, just a regular C. And then when it comes to Let There Be Carnage, I was really disappointed with this one. I feel like this went through way too much of a comedy route. When you have Venom in the club, mic dropping and going clubbing basically here, Carnage was not utilized enough, and the fact that they killed him off rather than keeping him as like a villain for like more movies, I thought was very, very disappointing. And like I said, just too much elements of comedy in there. I like the dynamic between Eddie Brock and Venom, like together. They're really entertaining. There was some funny lines in there, but some jokes just didn't land for me and just felt too much. So when it comes to Venom Let There Be Carnage, I think for this one, for me, it's going as a very high D, a D plus. I just wasn't a fan of Let There Be Carnage, to be completely honest with you. A lot of like missed opportunities. I'm hoping Venom 3 is going to be a lot better and that they learn from it, since it's just going to be its own separate thing. They're not focusing too much with tie-ins to Marvel. But we'll just have to wait and see. Venom Let There Be Carnage, D for me here. And then when it comes to like the animated Spider-Man movies here, so we've got the first one, Into the Spider-Verse, introducing Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker, and just everything about this movie when it first came out was just mind-blowing, jaw-dropping. The animations itself was just fresh and new. I loved the story. I remember I didn't watch it in the cinema, which I highly regret, but I watched it for the very first time probably after Avengers Endgame. Like when it was in between Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home, I wanted something MCU related, something Marvel related, and I honestly didn't know that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a movie, to be completely honest with you. Like 2017, 2018, I was in between countries like UK and Canada, sorting out all my travel plans and like all that. Long story short, I was in between travel plans and like moves and stuff like that, so I didn't really get to hear about Into the Spider-Verse movie. So when I first watched it, I was absolutely mind blown with the amazing aesthetics and cinematography and the soundtrack too. The score in this movie was just incredible. I rewatched it over and over again, and then I rewatched it last week just before the Across the Spider-Verse movie. So I just loved everything about this movie. So when it comes to Into the Spider-Verse, this one for me is going as an A. I'm putting this above No Way Home just because like everything about this was just so brilliantly done, storyline, writing and everything. So I really think this is a solid movie, and yeah, it's going as an A. And its sequel, its follow-up to it, Across the Spider-Verse, watched it last week and I'm still thinking about it. So I watched it on Friday, recording this like 3-4 days later. Still I'm thinking about it. I want to go watch it again as soon as possible. My biggest regret is I didn't watch it in IMAX. I watched it in regular screen, and what can you say about this? I've not seen a single negative review when it comes to Across the Spider-Verse movie. The art style and the choices within the worlds, the animation was jaw-dropping. The storyline, like, I love the writing when it comes to Gwenstacy and Miles Morales and the dynamic with their parents, and like if they're going to tell them, if they're not going to tell them, and just everything about it. Watching parents' point of view, their kids growing up. For me, I have a toddler and I'm just seeing this kid grow up, distancing himself, trying to become his own man in Miles Morales, and just thinking that this is going to be my son very soon. So it was just like a lot of like feelings, emotion watching this movie. And Spot playing the villain, I thought was fantastic writing. Just the way they were building him up from being like the villain of the week to like one of the biggest threats in the multiverse. Just chef's kiss when it comes to that. And then of course you've got Miguel O'Hara, like the voice cast, Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk, Dopinder as the Indian Spider-Man, Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara. I loved everything about this movie, and all the Easter eggs too, like not so subtle Easter eggs, the really in-your-face Easter eggs. I found it so fun and so entertaining, and just one movie that you will just rewatch over and over again. So far, this movie is the best movie of 2023 for me so far. I just have such a fun time with it here. I know like people are saying that because it ended so abruptly that like you can't really call it the best comic book movie. While I'm not saying it's the best comic book movie of all time, this is definitely one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time. So for me personally, when it comes to Across the Spider-Verse, this one for me is going as an A triple plus. Hands down, one of the best. Like I said, Spider-Man 2 for me personally, just because it hits more home, is my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. But after watching Across the Spider-Verse, like they are neck and neck with the two best Spider-Man movies there is. Loved everything about this. I really am enjoying this movie and cannot wait to rewatch it again. But this is the list for me personally, the tier ranking list of all the Spider-Man movies here. Again, I know some people might not agree with it, some people might disagree with it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and let me know your thoughts about my list as well, again in the comment section down below. And if you are a fan of these tier ranking videos, like I said, done plenty of like Marvel ones in the past, so you can go ahead check those out, and also subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future tier rankings I'm going to be doing. Like I said, Indiana Jones and Mission Impossible tier rankings coming very soon to the channel, so keep an eye out on that. But thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.